So we have a film where a single bridge turns courage and craftsmanship and command into a question that, well, no one could ignore. I'm Matt Hasquin. I'm a high school history teacher, and I'm taking you line by line through Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire, and we're at the end of this verse where we come up with, well, the bridge on the river Kwai. And let's go ahead and get into it. When Billy Joel sings Bridge on the River Kwai, he's pointing to the 1957 David Lean film that turned a World War II story into a blockbuster meditation on pride and obedience and also madness. It's based on Pierre Boulle's novel, and the movie follows British POWs that were forced by the Japanese to build a railway bridge in Burma. Their commander, Colonel Nicholson, which was portrayed by Alec Guinness, refuses to let his men be treated as slaves. He wins concessions and then, fatally, decides to build the best bridge possible to prove British discipline. Across the jungle, Allied commandos move in to blow up that same bridge before a train can cross. Three images made the movie unforgettable. First were the POWs whistling Colonel Bogey's march as they march into camp. They were jaunty and defiant, and it was kind of eerie. And second, you have the wooden trestle of the bridge rising over the green water, shot with just patience that makes engineering feel almost mythic. And then third, you have the last act collision, the commandos that bring in the detonator, Nicholson spotting the wires, and a finale that forces him, too late, to see what his stubborn honor has served. The film cleaned up at the 1958 Oscars, Best Picture, Best Director, Actor for Guinness, and others. The credited screenplay went to Boole, though the script was actually written by blacklisted Americans Carl Foreman and Michael Wilson, whom the Academy would finally credit decades later. Shot largely in Ceylon, which is now Sri Lanka, Lean used scale, the river, the jungle, the train, to frame effectively a moral close-up. When does discipline turn into collaboration? Veterans debated its accuracy. The real Burma Railway was built by Allied POWs and huge numbers of Asian forced laborers with some pretty appalling death tolls. The British officer who inspired the story, Philip Toosey, resisted the Japanese far more than Nicholson does on the screen. The movie isn't a documentary, though. It's a parable about how good intentions plus ego can serve the enemy if you lose sight of the goal. So why include it in the song, right, in the 1950s run of the issues being covered in the song? Well, because it shows film maturing into global events. A prestige war movie could also be a moral argument that people quoted and parodied and, whistled its tunes. It's the Cold War decade asking a World War II question. What exactly are you building, and for whom? When you tie it back into the song, in 5 words of the title of the movie, Billy Joel tags a film that became cultural shorthand for misguided pride, spectacle. And a bridge, you're meant to question it, before you cross it. The reason why it matters is the movie teaches how values out of context can backfire. It's a case study in leadership and collaboration and sabotage that still echoes in classrooms and boardrooms. Mission first, ego second. If you enjoyed this particular episode in the We Didn't Start the Fire series, please leave me a like, a comment, a follow, a share, all the things that you can do, and I'd be very appreciative of it. And I will continue moving our way through the song, because next up I'll be talking about Lebanon. I hope you can join me. Thanks for watching.